The past year had been one of the most challenging of my life. What began as a promising start quickly spiraled into a whirlwind of stress, miscommunication, and emotional distance. I had always thought that Ethan and I were unbreakable, that our love could weather any storm. But as the pressures of work and life mounted, we found ourselves drifting further apart, caught in a cycle of frustration and silence. This is the story of how we lost each other, and how, against all odds, we found our way back. January, the new year had arrived with a cold bite, and I felt its chill deep in my bones. At 24, I was only a few years into my career at a marketing firm, and the demands were overwhelming. The clients were relentless, the deadlines unreasonable. I loved the work, but it was wearing me down. Ethan, my boyfriend of 3 years, was struggling too. At 25, he was pushing himself hard at his tech startup, trying to make a name for himself. We had always been each other's safe haven, but now, our shared space felt suffocating. One January evening, after a particularly grueling day, I sat across from Ethan at the dinner table. My mind was miles away, replaying the stress of a looming presentation. Ethan tried to engage me in conversation, but his words barely registered. I nodded absent-mindedly, lost in my own world. Suddenly, Ethan's voice cut through my thoughts, sharper than usual. "You're not even listening, Clara. Why do I even bother talking to you anymore?" I blinked, taken aback by the bitterness in his tone. "Maybe if you weren't always complaining about work, I'd have something to listen to." I shot back, my own frustration bubbling over. The argument escalated quickly, each of us lashing out not at each other, but at the stress we couldn't seem to shake. By the end of the night, we were both too hurt to speak. The silence between us felt like a wall, cold and impenetrable. February to June, in the weeks that followed, the tension lingered, a constant, unspoken presence in our apartment. I threw myself even deeper into my work, staying late at the office to avoid the awkwardness at home. Ethan did the same, spending more time with his colleagues, finding solace in the camaraderie they offered. By March, we were barely communicating. We lived together but felt like strangers, passing each other in the hallway without so much as a glance. When I was offered the chance to lead a marketing campaign in another city for 6 months, I accepted without hesitation. It felt like an escape, a way to clear my head and figure things out. Ethan, too, took a chance to distance himself. His company was expanding, and he was given an opportunity to work on a new project in a different branch, halfway across the country. Neither of us protested. We silently agreed that the space might help us both. February to June, in the weeks that followed, the tension lingered, a constant, unspoken presence in our apartment. I threw myself even deeper into my work, staying late at the office to avoid the awkwardness at home. Ethan did the same, spending more time with his colleagues, finding solace in the camaraderie they offered. By March, we were barely communicating. We lived together but felt like strangers, passing each other in the hallway without so much as a glance. When I was offered the chance to lead a marketing campaign in another city for 6 months, I accepted without hesitation. It felt like an escape, a way to clear my head and figure things out. Ethan, too, took a chance to distance himself. His company was expanding, and he was given an opportunity to work on a new project in a different branch, halfway across the country. Neither of us protested. We silently agreed that the space might help us both. July to September, the physical distance brought a strange mix of relief and sadness. I missed Ethan, but I was also relieved to be free of the tension that had suffocated our relationship. I found a friend in Lisa, a coworker who had been through a similar rough patch in her own marriage. We spent long evenings in my temporary apartment, talking over wine. Lisa's advice was simple but wise: you need to talk to him, Clara. You can't just let this fester. But I was stubborn. I wasn't ready to reach out, not yet. I imagined Ethan was doing just fine without me. He was probably thriving at work, surrounded by his colleagues, forgetting all about the troubles we had left behind. I didn't know that he, too, was confiding in a friend, trying to make sense of the emptiness he felt without me. December, the first snow of December coated the city in white, a stark reminder of how much time had passed. I was back in my hometown now, the familiar streets and faces only making my loneliness more acute. I stared at my phone, Ethan's number highlighted on the screen. My heart pounded as I hovered my finger over the call button. "Just do it," I whispered to myself. And with a deep breath, I pressed the button. The phone rang twice before he answered. "Clara," he said, my name a soft breath on the other end of the line. "Ethan, I." My voice faltered, but I pushed on. "I miss you. I miss us. Can we try again?" There was a pause, and my heart felt like it might burst from my chest. But then Ethan spoke, his voice thick with emotion. "I miss you too, Clara. I think we both made mistakes, but I want to fix them. I want us to be together." The conversation that followed was like a dam breaking. Months of pent-up emotions, fears, and hopes came pouring out. We talked late into the night, and for the first time in months, I felt truly heard. It wasn't easy, but we were honest with each other, and that honesty was healing. December 31st, New Year's Eve arrived, a year to the day since everything had started to unravel. I stood in our apartment, the warmth of the fireplace a comforting contrast to the cold outside. Ethan was by my side, his presence a reassurance that we had found our way back to each other. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Ethan pulled me into his arms. "I'm glad we found our way back," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I smiled, tears welling up in my eyes. "Me too. This time, we won't let go." The clock struck 12, and as the fireworks lit up the sky outside, the new year stretched out before us, full of possibilities. And this time, we would face it together, stronger and more in love than ever.